What if everything you've been taught about success, creativity, and personal growth was limited by invisible boundaries? What if the way you think, the way you work, and the way you make decisions is constrained by outdated beliefs and assumptions? Most people go through life following a predefined script, rarely questioning the rules or challenging the norms that shape their reality. But here's the truth. The most extraordinary achievements in history have come from people who dared to think beyond the box. They refused to accept limitations. They saw opportunities where others saw obstacles. They redefined what was possible and, in doing so, changed the world. This audiobook is about breaking those boundaries. It is about shifting your mindset, challenging conventional thinking, and unlocking a level of potential that most people never even realize exists. If you have ever felt like there is something more waiting for you, if you have ever sensed that your current reality is only a fraction of what you are truly capable of, then you are in the right place. This book is your blueprint for transformation. Why thinking beyond the box matters. You have heard the phrase, "think outside the box," countless times. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what is the box? The box represents limitations, the mental models, societal norms, fears, and assumptions that confine your thinking. It is the set of invisible rules that shape your decisions, behaviors, and expectations. The problem is, most people live their entire lives trapped within this box without even realizing it. The box tells you to play it safe. It tells you to follow the traditional path, to avoid risks, and to conform to what is normal. It tells you that success comes from fitting in, not from standing out. It convinces you that your potential is fixed, that your circumstances define your future, and that only a select few are capable of doing extraordinary things. But that is a lie. Thinking beyond the box is not just about being creative. It is about breaking free from limitations and redefining what is possible. It is about refusing to accept that things must be done a certain way just because they always have been. It is about seeing opportunities where others see roadblocks, challenging assumptions that hold you back, and daring to pursue paths that others are too afraid to take. It is about living a life without limits. The consequences of staying inside the box. Most people live inside the box because it feels safe, but what they don't realize is that the box is actually a prison. It is a self-imposed limitation that keeps you from reaching your full potential. If you continue to think inside the box, here's what happens. 1. You stay stuck in patterns that no longer serve you. You repeat the same habits, make the same decisions, and wonder why nothing changes. 2. You allow fear to dictate your choices. You avoid risks, play small, and never take the bold actions needed to create real breakthroughs. 3. You limit your opportunities for growth and success. The most innovative ideas, the biggest rewards, and the greatest experiences exist outside your comfort zone. 4. You settle for less than you are capable of. Instead of pursuing greatness, you accept mediocrity simply because it is easier. Now, let's flip the perspective. Imagine what happens when you break free from the box. You start seeing opportunities everywhere. You develop unshakable confidence in your ability to create success on your terms. You stop waiting for permission and start taking bold action. You discover that failure is not the end, it is the beginning of growth. You achieve things that once seemed impossible. That is the power of thinking beyond the box. It is the key to unlocking your highest potential. What to expect in this audiobook? This book is not just about motivation. It is about transformation. Each chapter is designed to push you further beyond the mental, emotional, and societal boundaries that have been limiting your growth. We will cover mindset shifts, practical strategies, and real-world applications to help you break free from limitations and start thinking, acting, and succeeding in ways you never imagined possible. Here's a glimpse of what we will dive into. The science of breaking mental barriers. Understanding how your brain creates limitations and how to reprogram it for success. The power of unconventional thinking. Learning how to challenge norms and create innovative solutions. Resilience and grit. Developing the mental toughness to push through obstacles and setbacks. The art of risk-taking. Learning when to step outside your comfort zone and take calculated risks. Mastering adaptability. Becoming flexible and thriving in uncertain situations. The unbreakable mindset. Cultivating the habits and thought patterns that make you unstoppable. Living without limits. Creating a life that is driven by passion, purpose, and fearless action. Every chapter will contain real-world examples, practical exercises, and actionable steps to ensure that you are not just learning, you are applying these principles to your daily life. How to apply these principles in daily life? Breaking boundaries is not a one-time decision. It is a way of life. Every day you will be faced with opportunities to either stay in the box or step beyond it. The key is to become aware of these moments and make conscious choices that push you forward. Here's how you can start applying these principles immediately. 1. Challenge assumptions. Every time you think, "This is just the way things are," stop and ask, "Is that really true?" Look for alternative solutions, perspectives, and possibilities. 2. Take bold action. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Start before you are ready. Say yes to opportunities that scare you. The greatest breakthroughs happen when you step into discomfort. 3. Embrace failure as a learning tool. Instead of fearing failure, see it as feedback. Every mistake is a lesson that brings you closer to success. The only true failure is giving up. 4. Surround yourself with growth-minded people. Your environment shapes your thinking. Seek out people who challenge you, inspire you, and push you to level up. Cut out negativity and toxic influences that keep you stuck. 5. Train your brain to think differently. Read, learn, experiment. Expose yourself to new ideas, industries, and ways of thinking. The more perspectives you gain, the more innovative and adaptable you become. 6. Commit to relentless growth. Never settle. Always be improving. Keep pushing your limits. The moment you stop growing, you start declining. Stay hungry. Stay driven. Stay limitless. You are standing at the edge of two possible futures. One where you continue living within the limits that have been placed on you, and another where you break free and create a life beyond anything you have ever imagined. The choice is yours. Are you ready to break boundaries? If so, let's begin. Your journey to thinking beyond the box starts now. Chapter 1. Understanding boundaries in thinking. What if I told you that most of the limits you believe exist in your life aren't real? What if the biggest thing holding you back isn't the world, your circumstances, or even other people, but the invisible walls you've built inside your own mind? Most people live their entire lives confined within mental boundaries that they never even realize are there. These boundaries shape our decisions, our habits, and ultimately, our destiny. But here's the good news. Just like a fish that doesn't realize it's in water, the moment you become aware of the walls around you, you gain the power to break them down. The problem is, we rarely question them. We assume that the way we think is just the way things are without ever stopping to ask, where did these thoughts come from? Why do I believe certain things are possible and others are not? And most importantly, what if I could think differently? That's exactly what we're going to explore in this chapter. From the moment we're born, we are shaped by a system designed to keep us thinking. Inside a predictable, controlled framework, society rewards conformity, not creativity. Education teaches us how to answer questions, not how to ask the right ones. Family, culture, religion, and tradition all play a role in shaping what we believe is possible. We are told to be realistic, to stay in our lane, and to follow the rules, as if stepping outside the lines is some kind of crime. But here's the thing. Every great innovator, every disruptor, every person who has ever changed the world has done one thing first. They questioned the boundaries of their own thinking. They refused to accept that this is just how things are. And that's where real transformation begins. What are mental boundaries and how do they control you? Imagine a dog that has been trained with an electric fence. Every time it gets too close to the perimeter, it receives a shock. Eventually, the dog stops trying to leave, even if the fence is removed. It has internalized the boundary. The same thing happens to us. Early in life, we test the edges of our abilities, our beliefs, and our potential. And every time we get shocked, whether through failure, criticism, or rejection, we start to shrink inside an invisible mental cage. We stop challenging ideas. We stop taking risks. We stop believing that we can create something new. The worst part? Unlike the dog, most of us never even realize the fence isn't real anymore. These mental boundaries come in different forms. Some are personal. I'm not smart enough to do that. I could never start my own business. I'm too old to learn something new. Others are social. That's just not how things are done. No one in my family has ever been successful, so why would I be? And some are even cultural. People like us don't do things like that. These thoughts become the bars of our mental prison, and because we believe them, we never even try to escape. But what if we could? What if those boundaries were nothing more than illusions, built from fear, habit, and outdated beliefs? How boundaries are formed, the hidden forces that shape our thinking. To break free from these mental constraints, we first need to understand where they come from. The truth is, no one is born thinking inside the box. If you've ever spent time with a child, you know they ask endless questions. Why is the sky blue? Why can't I fly? Why do I have to go to school? They don't accept the world as it is. They challenge it. They explore, they experiment, and they imagine things that seem impossible. But somewhere along the way, that curiosity is shut down. We are trained to stop questioning, to stop wondering, and to stop dreaming beyond the limits imposed on us. Parents, teachers, and authority figures, usually with good intentions, start enforcing the rules. They tell us what is acceptable and unacceptable. They reward behavior that aligns with the norm and punish anything that doesn't. Schools reinforce standardized thinking by making students memorize information instead of discovering it for themselves. Society conditions us to seek approval, fit in, and avoid risk. Over time, these messages become part of our subconscious programming. We don't even realize we're living according to a script that someone else wrote for us. Think about this for a moment. How many of your beliefs about what is possible are truly yours? How many have you inherited from your family, your culture, or your past experiences? Have you ever questioned them? If not, now is the time. Because the first step in breaking boundaries is identifying where they came from in the first place. Breaking free from limiting beliefs, rewriting your mental script. The key to changing your thinking is understanding that beliefs are not facts. Just because you believe something doesn't mean it's true. And just because you've thought a certain way for a long time doesn't mean you have to keep thinking that way. The most successful people in the world share one common trait. They refuse to let limiting beliefs control them. They constantly question what they think they know. They challenge their own assumptions. And they actively reprogram their minds to think in new and expansive ways. Here's how you can start doing the same. 1. Identify the beliefs that hold you back. Pay attention to the thoughts that arise when you face a challenge. Do you immediately think, I can't do this, or this is impossible? Those are signs of mental boundaries. Write them down. 2. Ask yourself, is this belief really true? Challenge your assumptions. Has anyone in history overcome this same challenge? If the answer is yes, then it's not impossible. You just haven't figured out how yet. 3. Find evidence to prove your limiting belief wrong. Look for examples of people who defied expectations, broke barriers, and succeeded against the odds. If they did it, so can you. 4. Replace limiting thoughts with empowering ones. Instead of saying, I'm not good at this, say, I'm learning to get better every day. Instead of, I could never do that, say, I haven't done it yet, but I can figure it out. 5. Take action, even when it's uncomfortable. The only way to truly break a mental boundary is to push past it. Do the thing that scares you. Challenge yourself to think differently. Break the pattern of limitation with bold action. The truth about thinking beyond the box. Here's the secret. There is no box. The box you've been told to think inside is just an illusion, a collection of rules and limits that were never real in the first place. The people who change the world don't think outside the box. They realize that the box was never there to begin with. You have that same ability. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is the willingness to challenge the mental boundaries that have been placed in front of you. Now that you understand where these limits come from and how they shape your life, it's time to take control of your thinking. Because once you start seeing the boundaries in your mind for what they really are, nothing more than outdated programs, you gain the power to rewrite them. You become the author of your own mental script. And that is where true freedom begins. Chapter 2. The Science of Creative Thinking. What if I told you that creativity is not something you're born with, but something you can train, like a muscle? Most people believe that creativity is a rare gift, a mystical power reserved for artists, writers, or inventors. But science tells us otherwise. Your brain is not a fixed machine. It is an adaptable, ever-changing system that can be rewired to think in new and innovative ways. The ability to think beyond the box is not about having a special talent. It's about knowing how to use your brain differently. And here's where it gets interesting. Everything you believe about your own creativity, whether you think you have it or not, can be rewritten. Your mind has untapped potential, just waiting to be unlocked. But to do that, we first need to understand how the brain processes ideas, why we often struggle to think differently, and what we can do to break free from these mental constraints. Creativity is not magic. It's not about sudden flashes of inspiration that strike like lightning. It is a process, a series of steps that your brain takes to connect seemingly unrelated pieces of information in new ways. Every great idea, every innovation, every revolutionary breakthrough has followed the same cognitive path, one that is predictable and repeatable. That means that once you understand how creativity works, you can train yourself to generate more original ideas, solve problems more effectively, and think in ways that most people never even consider. The difference between those who innovate and those who don't is not intelligence. It's how they use their brain. And today, you're going to learn exactly how to rewire yours. How your brain creates and processes ideas. To understand creativity, we need to dive into the fascinating world of neuroscience. Your brain is made up of around 86 billion neurons, each connected by thousands of synapses. These neurons communicate through electrical impulses, forming networks that determine how you think, feel, and act. Every thought, every memory, and every idea you've ever had exists as a pattern of neural connections. The more you repeat a certain type of thinking, the stronger those connections become. This is why habits form, not just in your actions, but in your thought processes as well. Now, here's the key to creativity. The brain is designed to take shortcuts. It loves efficiency. When you solve a problem, your brain pulls from past experiences and known patterns to come up with a quick answer. This is useful for everyday decisions, but terrible for innovation. Why? Because creativity requires breaking existing patterns and forming new ones. The most creative thinkers don't rely on automatic responses. They force their brains to make unusual connections. They actively seek out new information, challenge assumptions, and push beyond the obvious. Studies in neuroscience have shown that when we think creatively, multiple regions of the brain work together in a way that is different from normal problem solving. The default mode network, responsible for imagination and daydreaming, works alongside the executive control network, which is responsible for focus and decision-making. This unique interaction allows creative thinkers to generate novel ideas while still refining them into something useful. The good news? You can train your brain to do this more often. Why we struggle to think differently. If the brain is capable of such powerful creative thinking, why do most people struggle with it? The answer lies in the way we are conditioned to think. As children, we are naturally creative. We explore, we experiment, and we ask endless questions. But as we grow older, we are trained to think in a structured, linear way. Schools reward correct answers, not original ones. Society values conformity, not questioning. Over time, we lose our ability to think freely because we have been taught to rely on what is known rather than explore the unknown. Another major reason we struggle to think creatively is cognitive bias. Our brains develop shortcuts, mental rules of thumb, that help us navigate the world efficiently. While these shortcuts save time, they also limit our thinking. For example, functional fixedness is a cognitive bias that makes us see objects only for their intended use. If you need to hold a door open but only have a book, you might not immediately realize that the book can be used as a doorstop. This same kind of limited thinking applies to bigger problems in life. We get stuck because we only see what's in front of us, rather than exploring new possibilities. Another common barrier is fear of failure. Our brains are wired to avoid risk, and creative thinking often feels risky. When you generate a new idea, there's always a chance it might not work. Many people would rather play it safe than risk embarrassment or rejection. But here's the truth. Every great idea was once a bad idea that someone had the courage to pursue. The people who change the world are the ones who are willing to fail again and again until they get it right. Real-world examples of out-of-the-box thinkers. History is full of people who defied conventional thinking and changed the world because of it. Think about Albert Einstein. His theories of relativity were considered absurd at the time. He didn't just accept what was taught in physics. He questioned it, pushed its limits, and reshaped our understanding of the universe. Or, take Steve Jobs. He didn't invent the personal computer, the smartphone, or the MP3 player, but he saw new ways to integrate design, technology, and user experience that no one else had imagined. The Wright brothers were not trained engineers, yet they ignored what experts said about flight and built the first airplane. These people weren't superhuman. They simply refused to accept the mental boundaries that others lived by. How to rewire your brain for creative thinking. The good news is, you don't need to be a genius to think creatively. You just need to train your brain to think differently. Here's how you can start. 1. Expose yourself to new ideas. Constantly. Creativity thrives on diverse input. Read books outside your field. Talk to people with different perspectives. Travel to new places. The more varied your experiences, the more connections your brain can make. 2. Ask, what if? More. Often, instead of accepting things as they are, challenge them. What if we did this differently? What if this rule didn't exist? Great ideas start with great questions. 3. Force yourself to think in opposites. If you always solve problems in one way, try doing the exact opposite. This disrupts habitual thinking and forces your brain to create new connections. 4. Embrace failure as a learning tool. The best ideas come from trial and error. Don't see failure as an endpoint. See it as feedback. The more mistakes you make, the closer you get to a breakthrough. 5. Give your brain time to wander. Some of the best ideas come when you're not actively thinking about the problem. Take breaks, daydream, let your mind roam. Your subconscious will do the work for you. The power of thinking differently. Creative thinking is not a talent, it's a skill. It is something you can practice, refine, and master. The only thing stopping you from unlocking your full creative potential is the belief that you're not creative. But as you've just learned, creativity is built into your brain. You just need to wake it up. The moment you stop accepting limits and start questioning them, the world opens up in ways you never imagined. And that is the first step to breaking boundaries, not just in your thinking, but in your entire life. Chapter 3. Overcoming fear and doubt. Fear and doubt, these are the silent killers of potential. They whisper in your mind, subtly convincing you that you are not capable, not ready, not talented enough to break the mold and think beyond the box. They creep into your thoughts before you even take your first step, stopping you before you even begin. They disguise themselves as rational concerns. What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I'm not good enough? But the truth is, fear and doubt are not real barriers. They are illusions. And if you learn how to push through them, you unlock the kind of confidence and creativity that most people never achieve. Because here's something most people don't realize. Every single innovator, leader, and boundary breaker in history has battled fear and doubt. The difference is, they didn't let it stop them. Think about this. How many ideas have you abandoned before even giving them a chance? How many times have you held yourself back because you were afraid of failing, of being judged, of stepping too far outside the norm? How many times have you talked yourself out of something great before you even tried? Most people do this their entire lives without even realizing it. They mistake their doubts for truth, their fears for facts. But what if you could strip those illusions away? What if, instead of seeing fear and doubt as signs to stop, you saw them as signs to keep going? Because that's exactly how the most successful people in the world operate. They don't let fear control them. They use it as fuel. The real source of fear and doubt. To overcome fear and doubt, you first need to understand where they come from. Fear is not just a psychological reaction. It's a biological one. Your brain is wired for survival. Thousands of years ago, fear kept us alive. It told our ancestors when to run from danger, when to avoid risky situations, and when to stick with what was safe. The problem is, your brain still operates as if you are living in a prehistoric world. It reacts to modern challenges, like speaking up in a meeting, starting a new business, or taking a creative risk, as if they are life or death situations. It sends signals of panic, stress, and hesitation, even when there is no real danger. Doubt, on the other hand, is a learned behavior. You were not born doubting yourself. As a child, you had no hesitation about trying new things. You weren't afraid of looking silly or making mistakes. But over time, experiences, failures, and criticism shape the way you think about yourself. Maybe you were told that you weren't smart enough or talented enough to succeed. Maybe you failed in the past and convinced yourself that you're destined to fail again. Maybe society has conditioned you to believe that only a certain type of person can achieve greatness, and you don't fit that mold. These doubts take root in your mind, becoming invisible barriers that keep you trapped in place. But just like fear, doubt is not reality. It's a mental construct, and you have the power to dismantle it. The science of fear. What happens in your brain? When you feel fear, your brain activates the amygdala, a small almond-shaped cluster of neurons responsible for processing emotions. This triggers a flood of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, putting you into fight or flight mode. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense up, and your mind starts racing with worst-case scenarios. This is great if you're facing a real physical threat. But when it comes to creative risks, personal growth, and innovation, this reaction is completely unnecessary. The problem is, your brain doesn't know the difference. Here's where things get interesting. Scientists have discovered that fear and excitement activate the same physiological response. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your breath shortens, but the only difference is how you interpret those sensations. That means you can train yourself to see fear not as a warning to stop, but as a signal that you're about to do something meaningful. The most successful people don't avoid fear. They reframe it. They feel the same adrenaline rush, the same uncertainty, but instead of thinking, "I'm terrified," they think, "I'm excited." And that small shift changes everything. Why most people stay stuck in fear. Most people assume that confidence comes first, that you need to feel ready before you take action. But that's not how it works. Confidence is a result, not a prerequisite. You don't wake up one day suddenly fearless. You build confidence by taking action despite fear. Every time you do something that scares you, you teach your brain that fear is not the enemy. You prove to yourself that you are capable, and over time, fear loses its grip on you. Think about the first time you rode a bike. You were probably nervous, unsteady, unsure of yourself. Maybe you even fell a few times. But with each attempt, you got better. You started trusting yourself. And eventually, what once felt terrifying became second nature. The same principle applies to thinking beyond the box. The more you push past fear, the less power it has over you. How to overcome fear and doubt, a step-by-step process. If you want to break free from mental boundaries, you have to rewire the way you respond to fear and doubt. Here's how you can start. 1. Recognize fear for what it is. Fear is not an indicator of truth. Just because you feel afraid doesn't mean you're in danger. Start becoming aware of when fear arises and ask yourself, is this a real threat? Or is it just my brain trying to keep me in my comfort zone? 2. Reframe fear as excitement. The next time you feel nervous about taking a creative risk or stepping outside your comfort zone, don't say, "I'm scared." Instead say, "I'm excited." Train your brain to associate those sensations with opportunity instead of danger. 3. Challenge your doubts. When self-doubt creeps in, don't accept it as truth. Instead, question it. If your mind tells you, "I'm not good enough," ask yourself, where is the evidence for that? Have I ever succeeded in a similar situation? More often than not, you'll find that your doubts have no real foundation. 4. Take action before you feel ready. Waiting until you feel ready is a trap. Readiness comes from action, not the other way around. The more you hesitate, the more fear grows. So take the first step, no matter how small, and let confidence build from there. 5. Visualize success. Studies have shown that mental rehearsal strengthens neural pathways in the brain. Spend a few minutes each day imagining yourself succeeding, overcoming obstacles, and pushing past doubt. Your brain will start to believe it's possible. 6. Expose yourself to fear regularly. The more you face fear, the weaker it becomes. Push yourself to do things that make you uncomfortable every day, whether it's speaking up in a meeting, sharing your ideas, or taking a creative risk. Fear is a compass. Follow it. The irony of fear is that it often points you in the direction you need to go. If something scares you, it usually means it's important. It means growth is on the other side. Fear is not a stop sign, it's a compass, guiding you toward the things that will make you stronger, smarter, and more creative. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is simple. Successful people feel fear, but move forward anyway. They refuse to let doubt control them. They understand that fear is not the enemy. It's proof that they are pushing beyond boundaries. You are capable of more than you realize, and the only thing standing between you and the next level of your life is your willingness to break through fear and doubt. Because once you do, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Chapter 4. Developing a Growth Mindset. What if I told you that the only thing standing between you and limitless potential isn't talent, intelligence, or luck, but simply the way you think? The way you approach challenges, setbacks, and learning determines how far you'll go in life. Some people believe they are born with a fixed amount of ability, that intelligence and creativity are predetermined and unchangeable. Others believe that growth is infinite, that every failure is an opportunity to improve, and that success is built through persistence rather than natural talent. This fundamental difference in thinking is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain stuck. It's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. If you've ever looked at someone successful and thought, they must have been born with that ability, I could never do that, then you've fallen into the trap of a fixed mindset. It's a belief system that convinces you that your skills, intelligence, and creativity are set in stone. It tells you that if you struggle with something, it means you're not good at it. That failure is proof that you're incapable. That effort is pointless if you don't succeed quickly. And that belief is one of the biggest barriers to breaking boundaries in life. But here's the truth. Your brain is far more adaptable than you realize. The way you think, learn, and create is not fixed. It is shaped by experience, effort, and mindset. The science behind a growth mindset. Your brain is not a rigid, unchangeable machine. It is a dynamic, evolving organ that constantly reshapes itself based on what you do, what you learn, and how you think. This ability, known as neuroplasticity, means that every time you challenge yourself, solve a problem, or push beyond your comfort zone, your brain physically changes. It creates new neural pathways, strengthens existing ones, and rewires itself to become more efficient. Research by Dr. Carol Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford University, revealed that the way people perceive their abilities dramatically impacts their success. In her studies, she found that individuals with a fixed mindset avoided challenges because they feared failure. They believed that intelligence and talent were unchangeable traits, so struggling at something meant they weren't good enough. On the other hand, individuals with a growth mindset saw challenges as opportunities to improve. They believed that effort led to improvement, that failure was simply part of the learning process, and that abilities could be developed over time. The results were staggering. People with a growth mindset not only performed better in academic and professional settings, but they were also more resilient, more creative, and more likely to push boundaries. The key takeaway: your mindset is not just a belief, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you can grow, you will. If you believe you can't, you'll stay stuck. The only thing separating you from the skills, success, and breakthroughs you want is your willingness to embrace growth. How a fixed mindset holds you back. A fixed mindset creates invisible barriers that limit your potential. Here's how it operates. Fear of failure. If you believe that your abilities are fixed, every failure feels like a personal flaw. Instead of seeing it as a learning experience, you see it as proof that you're not capable. Avoiding challenges. When challenges arise, a fixed mindset convinces you to avoid them. Instead of stepping outside your comfort zone, you stay where it's safe, never pushing yourself, never growing. Giving up easily. If you don't succeed immediately, A fixed mindset makes you think you never will. You quit before you even have a chance to improve. Seeking validation, overgrowth. A fixed mindset makes you focus on looking smart or talented rather than actually developing your skills. You seek approval rather than pushing yourself to improve. Resenting others' success. Instead of being inspired by successful people, a fixed mindset makes you feel threatened by them. You assume they were just born lucky instead of realizing that they worked to get where they are. When you operate with a fixed mindset, you trap yourself in mediocrity, not because you're incapable, but because you never give yourself the chance to improve. But the good news is, a mindset is not permanent. You can rewire it. Shifting to a growth mindset, a step-by-step guide. If you want to break boundaries in your thinking, creativity, and success, you need to reprogram your mindset. Here's how. 1. Recognize your current mindset. The first step is awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts when you face a challenge. Do you immediately assume you can't do it? Do you shy away from trying? Start identifying when your fixed mindset takes over. 2. Reframe failure as learning. Stop seeing failure as a sign of inadequacy. Instead, see it as part of the process. Every mistake teaches you something. Every setback is a stepping stone. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? 3. Replace I can't with I can't yet. Adding yet to your self-doubt changes everything. Instead of I'm bad at this, say I'm not good at this yet. It shifts your thinking from a fixed limitation to a work in progress. 4. Embrace effort over talent. The world rewards effort far more than natural talent. The most successful people aren't the most gifted. They are the ones who keep going when others quit. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. 5. Seek challenges. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Start actively seeking out difficult tasks, new experiences, and uncomfortable situations. Push yourself to try things that challenge you, even if they scare you. 6. Surround yourself with growth-minded people. The people around you influence your mindset. Spend time with those who embrace growth, who see challenges as opportunities, and who encourage continuous learning. 7. Rewire negative self-talk. Every time you catch yourself saying, I can't, stop and challenge it. Ask yourself, is that really true? Have I actually put in the effort to improve? Most of the time, the answer is no. 8. Celebrate progress, not just results. Instead of only focusing on big achievements, start celebrating the process. Recognize small improvements, personal growth, and lessons learned along the way. The power of a growth mindset. Imagine what would happen if you stopped seeing failure as an endpoint and started seeing it as fuel. Imagine if, instead of avoiding challenges, you actively sought them out. Imagine if you stopped doubting yourself and started believing that every skill, every talent, and every success was within your reach. Not because you were born with it, but because you were willing to grow into it. This shift in mindset is what separates those who break boundaries from those who stay stuck. A growth mindset turns obstacles into opportunities, failures into feedback, and limits into launch pads. It allows you to push past fear, think beyond the box, and create a future that is not defined by where you are now, but by where you are willing to go. The choice is yours. Stay where you are, or start growing beyond what you ever thought possible. Chapter 5. The power of curiosity and exploration. Curiosity is the fuel of innovation, the root of discovery, and the key to breaking boundaries in ways most people never even consider. It is the one trait that has driven every major leap in human history, from scientific breakthroughs to artistic masterpieces, from technological revolutions to philosophical insights that changed the world. Yet, somewhere along the way, most people lose their curiosity. As children, we ask thousands of questions. We explore without hesitation. We poke, prod, experiment, and wonder. But as we grow older, society teaches us to stop questioning so much. It teaches us to accept things as they are, to stay within the lines, to follow pre-established paths, rather than forging new ones. Schools emphasize memorization over exploration. Work environments prioritize efficiency over creativity. And slowly, without even realizing it, we start suppressing the very thing that makes us innovative, our innate curiosity. But here's the truth. The most successful, creative, and groundbreaking thinkers in the world never stopped being curious. They refused to accept surface-level answers. They never assumed they knew enough. They questioned everything, explored relentlessly, and remained open to discovering new possibilities at every turn. If you want to think beyond the box, you have to reawaken your curiosity and embrace exploration as a lifelong habit. Because the moment you stop being curious, you stop growing. The moment you stop exploring, you become trapped in limitations. Limitations not imposed by the world, but by your own lack of curiosity. Why most people lose their curiosity. Curiosity isn't something people intentionally give up. It's something that is slowly chipped away by routine, social conditioning, and fear of the unknown. Over time, the drive to question, explore, and experiment is replaced by the desire to conform, to feel secure, and to avoid uncertainty. But where does this shift begin? Why do so many people lose the very trait that once made them so naturally creative and open-minded? The reasons are both psychological and societal. One major factor is the fear of being wrong. From an early age, we are taught that being wrong is something to be avoided. In school, wrong answers lead to bad grades. At work, mistakes can lead to consequences. Over time, this creates a subconscious aversion to questioning too deeply, because questioning might lead to failure, and failure feels uncomfortable. But the reality is, every great thinker, scientist, artist, and entrepreneur in history has been wrong countless times. They embraced being wrong because they knew that every mistake led to greater understanding. The problem isn't being wrong. The problem is being so afraid of being wrong that you stop asking questions altogether. Another reason people lose their curiosity is over-reliance on existing knowledge. As we grow older, we accumulate experience and expertise. This can be beneficial, but it can also create a mental trap, the belief that we already know enough. When people assume they already understand how the world works, they stop questioning. They stop seeking new perspectives. They become rigid in their thinking, which ultimately limits their ability to innovate. The most groundbreaking minds never fall into this trap. They remain students for life, always seeking new knowledge, always challenging their own assumptions, always exploring new ideas, even in areas where they are already considered experts. Finally, modern society encourages comfort over exploration. The world has never been more convenient. If we want information, we can find it instantly. If we need entertainment, it's available on demand. But convenience can be a double-edged sword. It makes life easier, but it also reduces the need for deep exploration. Instead of venturing into the unknown, most people settle for surface-level answers. Instead of questioning why things work the way they do, they accept them at face value. This creates a passive mindset, one that stifles creativity and prevents people from thinking beyond the box. How to reignite your curiosity. If you want to break boundaries in your thinking, you must actively cultivate curiosity. It's not enough to simply be open to new ideas. You have to deliberately seek them out. You have to train your mind to question everything, explore relentlessly, and remain fascinated by the world around you. Here's how you can start. 1. Ask better questions. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask. Instead of passively accepting information, start questioning everything. Don't just ask what. Ask why, how, and what if. Challenge assumptions. Look beyond the obvious. Ask questions that force you to think deeper. 2. Explore different perspectives. One of the best ways to expand your thinking is to expose yourself to perspectives that challenge your own. Read books outside your usual interests. Engage in conversations with people who have different beliefs. Travel to places that force you out of your comfort zone. The more perspectives you explore, the more innovative your thinking becomes. 3. Experiment without fear of failure. The most curious people in the world treat life like a laboratory. They test ideas, experiment with new approaches, and embrace trial and error as part of the process. If something doesn't work, they learn from it and try again. The more you experiment, the more you discover. 4. Stay uncomfortable. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. If you always stay in familiar environments, doing familiar things, your curiosity will wither. Push yourself to try new things even if they make you uncomfortable. Take a class in something completely unrelated to your field. Learn a skill you never thought you'd need. The more you expose yourself to the unfamiliar, the more your curiosity will thrive. 5. Follow your fascinations. Everyone has topics that naturally interest them, things that spark their curiosity even if they don't seem useful in a practical sense. Pay attention to these fascinations. Dive deeper into them. Explore them without worrying about where they might lead. Some of the greatest innovations in history came from people simply following their curiosity. The link between curiosity and creativity. Curiosity and creativity go hand in hand. The most creative people are also the most curious. They explore ideas, connect seemingly unrelated concepts, and look at the world through a lens of endless possibility. If you want to boost your creativity, the answer isn't to try harder. It's to become more curious. When you expand your curiosity, your brain naturally starts making new connections, generating fresh ideas, and seeing opportunities that others miss. Creativity isn't about forcing inspiration. It's about opening yourself up to exploration. It's about constantly feeding your mind with new input, new questions, and new experiences. When you do this, creativity becomes effortless. It becomes a natural byproduct of your curiosity. Curiosity is the ultimate boundary breaker. At its core, curiosity is the key to thinking beyond the box. It is what drives us to challenge norms, push limits, and create things that have never existed before. Every major breakthrough, every revolutionary idea, every boundary-breaking achievement in history has been driven by someone who refused to stop questioning, who refused to accept things as they were, who explored relentlessly until they uncovered something new. The question is, will you do the same? Will you choose to embrace curiosity, to break free from passive thinking, to explore the unknown? Or will you settle for the comfort of what you already know, staying within the boundaries that society has set for you? The choice is yours. But if you want to truly think beyond the box, there is only one answer. Stay curious, explore fearlessly, and never stop questioning. Chapter 6. Embracing Change and Adaptability. Change is inevitable, yet it is one of the most feared and resisted aspects of life. The irony is that everything around us is constantly evolving. Technology, society, industries, relationships, and even the way we think. Nothing remains the same forever, and those who refuse to adapt are the ones who get left behind. Look at history. The companies that failed to evolve with the digital age became obsolete. The individuals who clung to outdated skills found themselves struggling in a rapidly advancing world. Even civilizations that resisted progress eventually crumbled under the weight of their own rigidity. If you want to break boundaries and think beyond the box, you must learn to not only accept change, but embrace it. Because change is not the enemy. The inability to adapt is. Many people fear change because it introduces uncertainty. We like familiarity. We like predictability. It makes us feel safe. But growth does not happen in safety. It happens when you step into the unknown and adapt to new circumstances. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in human history was born from change. The internet revolutionized how we communicate, but only those who adapted to it thrived. The shift from physical retail to e-commerce crushed traditional businesses, but created new opportunities for those willing to innovate. The rise of artificial intelligence is disrupting industries, but the individuals and companies who embrace it are gaining an advantage. Change does not take away opportunities. It creates them, but only for those who are willing to adapt. So, why do so many people resist change? The answer lies in fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, and fear of losing control. Our brains are wired for survival, and survival favors stability. This is why stepping into something unfamiliar often triggers anxiety. But here's what most people don't realize. Fear is a sign that you are growing. It means you are stepping beyond your comfort zone, and that is exactly where transformation happens. Instead of seeing change as a threat, start seeing it as an opportunity. Because the truth is, the only constant in life is change, and your ability to adapt will determine whether you thrive or struggle. The science of adaptability, how your brain handles change. Adaptability is not just a personality trait, it is a skill. And like any skill, it can be developed. Your brain is an incredibly powerful, flexible organ that is designed to evolve with new experiences. The concept of neuroplasticity proves that your brain is capable of rewiring itself in response to new challenges, learning, and environments. Every time you face something unfamiliar, your brain creates new neural pathways to help you adapt. The more you expose yourself to change, the stronger your ability to handle uncertainty becomes. But here's the problem. Most people avoid situations that force them to adapt. They stay in the same job, the same routine, the same comfort zone because it feels familiar. And what happens when you avoid change? Your adaptability weakens. You become mentally rigid. You struggle with new challenges because you haven't trained yourself to handle them. This is why some people thrive in fast-changing environments, while others panic. The difference is who has strengthened their adaptability and who has neglected it. The good news is you can train yourself to be more adaptable. The more you expose yourself to new situations, challenges, and ways of thinking, the better your brain becomes at handling change. Think of it like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The key is to intentionally seek out discomfort, so that when major changes happen, you are already prepared. The dangers of resisting change. People who resist change often don't realize how much it limits them. When you cling to the past, you close yourself off to new opportunities. You become stagnant. You lose relevance, and eventually, the world moves forward without you. Here's how resisting change can negatively impact your life. It kills innovation. If you refuse to adapt, you stop growing. You reject new ideas, new strategies, and new perspectives that could help you evolve. It creates fear-based decision-making. When you resist change, you make decisions based on fear instead of possibility. You choose the safe option rather than the option that could lead to breakthrough success. It limits career growth. Industries are evolving faster than ever. The skills that were valuable 5 years ago may not be relevant today. If you don't keep up, you risk being left behind. It stifles personal growth. Change is how we grow as individuals. If you never embrace new challenges, you never develop new skills, perspectives, or strengths. It leads to regret. The most common regret people have is not taking chances, not embracing opportunities, and not being open to change. The longer you resist change, the more opportunities you miss. How to become more adaptable and embrace change. If you want to succeed in an ever-changing world, You must make adaptability a core part of your mindset. Here's how to train yourself to embrace change rather than fear it. 1. Reframe uncertainty as an opportunity. Instead of seeing uncertainty as something to fear, start seeing it as an opportunity to grow. Every unfamiliar situation is a chance to develop new skills, gain new insights, and push beyond your limits. 2. Let go of the need for control. One of the biggest reasons people resist change is because they fear losing control. But the truth is, you never had full control in the first place. The key to adaptability is learning to be comfortable with uncertainty. The more you accept that change is part of life, the easier it becomes to navigate. 3. Expose yourself to new experiences regularly. Adaptability is like a muscle. It needs to be exercised. Intentionally put yourself in situations that force you to learn something new. Travel to unfamiliar places. Take on challenges that push your limits, and explore perspectives that differ from your own. 4. Develop a learning mindset. The most adaptable people are lifelong learners. They never assume they know everything. They stay curious, seek out new knowledge, and remain open to changing their opinions based on new information. 5. Focus on solutions, not problems. When change happens, most people focus on what they've lost rather than what they can gain. Train yourself to shift your mindset from problems to possibilities. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "How can I use this to my advantage?" Number 6. Surround yourself with adaptable people. Your environment plays a huge role in shaping your mindset. If you spend time with people who resist change, you'll absorb their fear. But if you surround yourself with people who embrace growth and adaptability, their mindset will influence yours. 7. Practice emotional resilience. Change can be uncomfortable, and that's okay. The key is to build resilience so that when things don't go as planned, you don't break down. You adapt. Learn to manage stress. Stay flexible in your thinking, and remain optimistic even in uncertain situations. The future belongs to the adaptable. If there is one thing you take away from this chapter, let it be this: your ability to adapt will determine your success. The world is evolving faster than ever. The job market is changing. Industries are being disrupted. Technology is reshaping everything we know. The people who refuse to adapt will struggle. But the people who embrace change, who stay flexible, who continually learn and grow, they will thrive. Every time you resist change, you hold yourself back from opportunities that could transform your life. But every time you embrace change, you open doors to possibilities you never even imagined. The future does not belong to the strongest or the smartest. It belongs to those who can adapt the fastest. The choice is yours. Will you fear change, or will you embrace it and use it to your advantage? Chapter 7. Overcoming mental barriers. Every person, no matter how intelligent, talented, or ambitious, carries within them a set of invisible barriers, mental obstacles that limit their thinking, restrict their growth, and prevent them from reaching their full potential. These barriers are not physical, yet they are more powerful than any external challenge. They dictate how we see the world, what we believe is possible, and how far we are willing to push ourselves. The problem is that most people don't even realize these barriers exist. They accept limitations as facts rather than recognizing them for what they truly are: self-imposed restrictions created by the mind. If you want to break boundaries and think beyond the box, you must first learn to identify, challenge, and destroy these mental barriers before they destroy your potential. The illusion of limits: why most barriers are self-created. People often assume their limitations are real. They believe they aren't good enough, smart enough, or capable enough to achieve certain things. But where do these beliefs come from? Most of the time, they are not based on reality. They are the result of past experiences, societal conditioning, and deeply ingrained fears. As children, we were fearless. We believed we could do anything. We were willing to try, to experiment, to fail, and to try again. But over time, we started absorbing limitations from the world around us. We were told, "You can't do that. That's impossible. You're not talented enough." Or, "Stay in your lane." And without realizing it, we started building walls in our minds, walls that told us what we could and couldn't do. These walls are not real, but they feel real. They keep us in our comfort zones, prevent us from taking risks, and convince us that we are incapable of more. But the truth is, the greatest limitations in life are the ones we place on ourselves. Think about some of the most groundbreaking individuals in history: Einstein, Oprah, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Maya Angelou, Nikola Tesla. None of them accepted the limitations that society tried to impose on them. They refused to believe in the idea of impossible. They questioned norms, defied expectations, and shattered every mental barrier in their way. The only difference between them and everyone else is that they didn't let their minds hold them back. The good news is, you have the power to do the same. You are not bound by the mental walls you have built. You can tear them down, brick by brick, and step into a reality where anything is possible. The most common mental barriers and how to destroy them. There are many types of mental barriers, but some are more common than others. These barriers silently dictate the course of your life, influencing your decisions, limiting your courage, and sabotaging your success. Here are the most powerful mental barriers people face and how you can break free from them. 1. The fear of failure. Failure is one of the greatest fears people have, and for good reason. Society has conditioned us to see failure as something shameful. From a young age, we are taught that mistakes equal weakness. In school, failing a test means a bad grade. In the workplace, failure is often met with criticism. Over time, this creates a deep-seated fear of trying anything new, because if we fail, we believe it reflects on our worth. But here's the reality. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Every successful person in history has failed more times than they can count. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Michael Jordan missed over 9,000 shots in his career. J.K. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. The difference between successful people and those who never reach their potential is simple. Successful people see failure as a lesson, not a limitation. To break free from the fear of failure, you must redefine what failure means. Instead of seeing it as a dead end, start seeing it as feedback. Every failure contains valuable information: what worked, what didn't, and what you can improve. The key is to fail fast, fail forward, and never stop moving. The more you fail, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more you grow. And growth is the foundation of success. 2. The comfort zone trap. The comfort zone is a dangerous place. It feels safe, familiar, and predictable. But it is also where dreams go to die. Many people stay in their comfort zones because they fear the unknown. They stick to the same routines, the same environments, and the same ways of thinking, believing that stability equals happiness. But here's the truth. Nothing grows in the comfort zone. If you never step outside of what is familiar, you will never discover your full potential. Breaking free from this mental barrier requires intentional discomfort. You must force yourself to do things that scare you. Speak up in meetings. Take on challenges that intimidate you. Learn new skills even if you're terrible at them in the beginning. Growth only happens when you are willing to feel uncomfortable. The more you push your limits, the more your comfort zone expands. And the bigger your comfort zone, the bigger your potential. 3. The I'm not good enough mindset. This is one of the most common and damaging mental barriers. It is the belief that you are not smart enough, talented enough, experienced enough, or worthy enough to achieve greatness. This mindset often stems from childhood experiences, negative feedback, or comparing yourself to others. But here's the truth. Everyone starts as a beginner. No one is born an expert. The people you admire, the ones who seem confident and successful, once struggled with self-doubt too. The difference is, they didn't let it stop them. They kept going despite feeling unqualified. They took action despite their insecurities. And over time, they became the person they once doubted they could be. The only way to break free from this barrier is to act before you feel ready. Stop waiting until you feel good enough. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after. The more you push yourself, the more capable you become. The key is to start before you feel ready and trust that you will grow along the way. 4. The fear of what others think. Too many people live their lives based on the opinions of others. They hold back their dreams because they fear judgment. They suppress their true selves because they worry about criticism. But here's something to consider. People are too busy worrying about themselves to care about your every move. The truth is, no matter what you do, someone will always have an opinion. If you take risks, some will criticize you. If you play it safe, others will judge you for not aiming higher. You cannot win by trying to please everyone. The only solution is to stop seeking approval and start living for yourself. When you stop letting other people's opinions control you, you unlock true freedom. You become unstoppable because you are no longer weighed down by fear. The greatest breakthroughs in life happen when you decide to live on your own terms, regardless of what others think. Breaking free. The power of rewriting. Your mental narrative, your mind, is the most powerful tool you have. It can either be your greatest enemy or your greatest asset, and the choice is yours. If you continue to believe in mental barriers, they will control your life. But if you challenge them, break them down, and rewrite your narrative, you will realize that there were never any real limits, only the ones you imposed on yourself. The key is to question everything you believe about yourself. Where did these beliefs come from? Are they true, or were they conditioned into you? Are they helping you, or are they holding you back? Once you identify the mental barriers in your life, you can begin breaking them down, one by one. There is no limit to what you can achieve, except the limits you allow your mind to impose. The question is, will you continue to live within those limits, or will you break free and step into your true potential? Chapter 8. Mastering the art of risk-taking. Life is a game of risks. Every decision you make carries some level of uncertainty, some element of the unknown. Yet most people spend their lives avoiding risk at all costs, fearing failure, rejection, embarrassment, or loss. The irony, however, is that avoiding risk is the biggest risk of all. Because when you play it safe, when you stay in your comfort zone, when you refuse to take bold action, you don't just avoid failure. You avoid growth, success, and every opportunity that could have changed your life. The most successful individuals, the ones who shatter boundaries and think beyond the box, have one thing in common. They take risks. They are not reckless, but they are courageous. They understand that every great achievement requires stepping into uncertainty, making decisions without guarantees, and betting on themselves even when the odds seem uncertain. If you want to create an extraordinary life, you must learn to master the art of risk-taking. Not just any risk, but calculated, intelligent risks that move you forward rather than hold you back. Many people associate risk with danger, failure, and loss, but this is a false perception. Risk, when approached correctly, is not about recklessness or gambling with your future. It is about strategic decision-making, embracing uncertainty, and positioning yourself for exponential growth. Look at the people who have transformed industries. Elon Musk, risking everything to build Tesla and SpaceX. Oprah Winfrey, taking the risk of leaving her secure job to start her own network. Jeff Bezos, walking away from a lucrative Wall Street career to start an online bookstore that would later become Amazon. None of them knew with 100% certainty that they would succeed, but they understood that the risk of staying the same was far greater than the risk of trying something bold. Why most people fear taking risks. The fear of risk is deeply ingrained in human psychology. Our brains are wired for survival, not success. Thousands of years ago, taking risks could mean life or death. Stepping into unknown territory could mean facing predators, starvation, or injury. Our ancestors who played it safe were more likely to survive, and over time, this instinct became hardwired into our DNA. But while physical survival risks have diminished, our brains still react to risk the same way, triggering fear, anxiety, and resistance whenever we face uncertainty. The result? Most people choose comfort over growth. They choose to stay in jobs they hate rather than pursue their dreams. They choose relationships that feel safe rather than ones that challenge them to grow. They choose paths that are predictable rather than those that excite them. And in doing so, they trade the possibility of an extraordinary life for the illusion of security. But here's the reality. Security is an illusion. The job you think is safe can disappear overnight. The comfort zone you cling to can become a prison. The life you think is predictable can change in an instant. If you avoid risk out of fear, you don't eliminate uncertainty. You simply give up control over how your life unfolds. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is not talent, intelligence, or luck. It is the willingness to embrace uncertainty and take risks despite the fear. The different types of risk. Not all risks are the same, and not all risks are worth taking. Smart risk-taking is about knowing which risks are worth pursuing and which ones are not. Here are the 3 main types of risk you need to understand. 1. Reckless risks, the ones to avoid. Reckless risks are impulsive, poorly thought out, and driven by emotion rather than strategy. These are the decisions people make without evaluating the consequences. Quitting a job without a plan, investing money in a business they haven't researched, or making big life choices based on temporary emotions rather than long-term vision. Reckless risks can lead to failure, setbacks, and unnecessary hardships. The key is to recognize when a risk is driven by impulse rather than intention. 2. Calculated risks, the ones that create growth. Calculated risks are the foundation of success. These are the risks that involve uncertainty, but are backed by research, preparation, and a clear understanding of potential outcomes. This includes launching a business after careful planning, changing careers after acquiring the necessary skills, or investing in personal development even when it feels uncomfortable. Calculated risks are strategic, meaning you weigh the pros and cons, mitigate the downsides, and position yourself for success even in uncertain situations. 3. Growth risks, the ones that force you to evolve. Growth risks are the personal and professional risks that push you beyond your limits and force you to develop new skills, perspectives, and resilience. These are risks like speaking on stage when public speaking terrifies you, applying for jobs you feel unqualified for, moving to a new city for an opportunity, or stepping into leadership roles before you feel ready. Growth risks are about stretching yourself beyond what you think you're capable of, because that is where transformation happens. How to become a strategic risk taker. Now that you understand the importance of risk, the next step is learning how to take risks intelligently. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to move forward despite it. Here's how you can become a master at taking strategic, high-reward risks. 1. Develop a risk-taking mindset. Taking risks starts with your mindset. If you see risk as dangerous, you will avoid it. If you see risk as an opportunity, you will embrace it. Start shifting your perspective by reminding yourself that every major breakthrough in life comes from taking a chance. Think about a time when you took a risk that paid off. Whether it was applying for a job, pursuing a relationship, or trying something new, chances are it led to growth in some way. Train your mind to associate risk with possibility rather than danger. 2. Identify risks that align with your goals. Not all risks are worth taking. Smart risk takers don't chase every opportunity. They take risks that align with their long-term vision. Before taking a risk, ask yourself, does this move me closer to my goals? If the answer is yes, it's worth considering. If not, it may be a distraction rather than a real opportunity. 3. Prepare for the worst-case scenario. One of the biggest reasons people fear risk is the fear of failure. But what if you prepared for failure in advance? Instead of avoiding risk, ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? Then create a plan to handle that worst-case scenario. When you have a strategy for managing failure, the fear loses its power. 4. Take small risks. First, if you struggle with risk-taking, start small. Train yourself to take manageable risks before making big leaps. This could mean speaking up more in meetings, starting a side project, networking with people in your industry, or applying for positions slightly outside your comfort zone. The more you take small risks, the more comfortable you become with uncertainty. 5. Learn from every risk. Every risk you take, whether successful or not, contains valuable lessons. Instead of seeing failure as a dead end, see it as data. What worked? What didn't? What can you do differently next time? The most successful people are those who treat life like an experiment, constantly testing, learning, and refining their approach. The future belongs to the risk takers. If there is one truth you must embrace, it is this: your success is directly proportional to your willingness to take risks. The world is changing at an unprecedented rate. Industries are evolving, opportunities are shifting, and those who refuse to take risks will be left behind. Playing it safe does not guarantee security. It guarantees mediocrity. If you want to break boundaries, if you want to create an extraordinary life, you must develop the courage to bet on yourself, embrace uncertainty, and take bold action, even when there are no guarantees. The biggest risk is not failure. The biggest risk is looking back on your life and realizing you never truly lived. Chapter 9. The Power of Adaptability. Thriving in an ever-changing world. In a world that is constantly evolving, the ability to adapt is no longer just an advantage. It is a necessity. The truth is, no matter how intelligent, skilled, or resourceful you are, if you cannot adapt, you will eventually become obsolete. The world does not wait for those who refuse to change. Technology advances, industries shift, economies fluctuate, and unexpected events unfold at every turn. Those who cling to old ways of thinking, outdated strategies, or rigid mindsets will find themselves stuck while the world moves forward without them. On the other hand, those who embrace adaptability, who learn to pivot, evolve, and adjust, will always find ways to thrive. Adaptability is the single most important skill in a world of uncertainty. It is what separates those who survive from those who succeed, those who crumble under pressure from those who rise above it. If you want to break boundaries and think beyond the box, you must train yourself to become highly adaptable. You must learn to see change not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Uncertainty, not as a roadblock, but as a doorway to new possibilities. Why most people struggle with change. Despite the undeniable importance of adaptability, most people resist change. They fear the unknown, cling to familiarity, and prefer comfort over transformation. This resistance is not accidental. It is deeply rooted in human psychology. Our brains are wired for certainty and predictability because for our ancestors, change often meant danger. Sticking to familiar patterns and routines increased their chances of survival. If they suddenly changed their hunting grounds or ventured into unknown territory, they risked encountering predators, starvation, or hostile environments. This survival instinct still influences us today. Even though our environment has changed, we associate change with risk, and risk triggers fear. We worry about failing, losing control, or making mistakes. We become attached to what we know, even if what we know is no longer serving us. But here's the truth. In today's world, clinging to the past is more dangerous than embracing change. The people who resist change the most are the ones who suffer the most when change becomes unavoidable. The key is to stop seeing change as something to fear and start seeing it as something to master. The cost of inflexibility. How resistance to change leads to failure. Look at the companies, industries, and individuals who failed to adapt, and you will see a common pattern. Blockbuster, once a giant in the video rental industry, refused to embrace digital streaming and was wiped out by Netflix. Kodak, despite inventing the first digital camera, resisted digital photography because it threatened their film business. Now they are a shadow of what they once were. Taxi companies ignored the rise of ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft until it was too late. These are not isolated incidents. They are warnings. The same pattern applies to individuals who refuse to grow and change. The employee who resists learning new skills eventually becomes irrelevant in their field. The entrepreneur who clings to outdated business models loses to competitors who innovate. The person who refuses to adjust their mindset remains stuck in the same cycles, watching others progress while they stay in place. Adaptability is not just about surviving, it is about thriving. Those who embrace change, seek new opportunities, and constantly reinvent themselves are the ones who stay ahead. The question is, which side will you be on? The core traits of highly adaptable people. Adaptability is not something you are born with. It is something you develop. The most adaptable people share a set of key traits that allow them to navigate uncertainty with confidence and clarity. If you want to become more adaptable, you must cultivate these traits intentionally. 1. Open-mindedness. The willingness to see new perspectives. The most adaptable people do not cling to rigid beliefs or outdated assumptions. They are open to new ideas, different perspectives, and alternative ways of thinking. They understand that the world is constantly evolving, and what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. Open-mindedness allows you to see opportunities where others see obstacles. It helps you embrace innovation rather than fear it. To develop this trait, challenge yourself to question your beliefs regularly. Seek out diverse perspectives, expose yourself to new experiences, and be willing to change your mind when presented with better evidence. The moment you stop being open to new ways of thinking is the moment you stop growing. 2. Resilience. The ability to bounce back from setbacks. Adaptable people understand that change is often accompanied by setbacks, failures, and challenges. But instead of letting obstacles break them, they use them as fuel for growth. They bounce back quickly, learn from their failures, and keep moving forward. Resilience is the foundation of adaptability because it allows you to handle uncertainty without losing momentum. To build resilience, train yourself to see failure as feedback rather than defeat. When things don't go as planned, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, focus on how you can improve and adapt. The more resilient you become, the more fearless you will be in the face of change. 3. Curiosity. The desire to keep learning and growing. Curiosity is one of the most powerful traits of adaptable people. They never stop learning, questioning, or seeking new knowledge. They understand that growth is a lifelong process, and the more they learn, the more prepared they are for change. Curious people don't wait for opportunities to come to them. They actively seek them out. They read, explore, experiment, and constantly expand their understanding of the world. If you want to become more adaptable, cultivate an insatiable curiosity. Learn new skills, ask questions, and challenge yourself to step outside of your comfort zone regularly. The more you embrace curiosity, the more adaptable you become. 4. Emotional intelligence, the ability to manage uncertainty. With confidence. Change often triggers emotional responses: fear, anxiety, stress, or even excitement. Adaptable people have a high level of emotional intelligence, meaning they understand their emotions, manage them effectively, and make decisions based on logic rather than fear. They do not let uncertainty paralyze them. Instead, they remain calm, focused, and strategic, even in unpredictable situations. To develop emotional intelligence, practice self-awareness. Pay attention to how you react to change. Are you resisting it out of fear? Are you allowing emotions to cloud your judgment? The more you understand your emotional triggers, the better you can manage them. How to train yourself to become more adaptable. Adaptability is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. If you want to master the art of adaptability, you must intentionally push yourself beyond your comfort zone. Here's how. 1. Expose yourself to uncertainty. Instead of avoiding unpredictable situations, seek them out. Take on projects that challenge you, step into leadership roles, or try things you've never done before. The more comfortable you become with uncertainty, the easier it will be to adapt. 2. Embrace change as an opportunity. Whenever you face change, ask yourself, how can this benefit me? Instead of seeing change as a threat, train yourself to look for new possibilities within it. 3. Stay future-focused. Adaptable people do not dwell on the past. They focus on what's ahead and prepare for future opportunities. Develop the habit of thinking forward rather than looking backward. 4. Surround yourself with adaptable people. Your environment influences your mindset. Spend time with people who embrace change, think differently, and are constantly evolving. Their mindset will inspire you to do the same. The future belongs to those who adapt. The world is not slowing down. Change is happening faster than ever, and those who refuse to adapt will be left behind. The future will not belong to those who cling to old ways of thinking. It will belong to those who are willing to evolve. If you want to break boundaries, think beyond the box, and achieve extraordinary success, you must commit to becoming highly adaptable. Train yourself to embrace uncertainty, reinvent yourself when necessary, and see every change as an opportunity for growth. The greatest power you have is your ability to evolve. Use it wisely. Chapter 10. The Unbreakable Mindset. Cultivating mental toughness for lifelong success. In a world that constantly throws challenges, setbacks, and uncertainties your way, there is one skill that will determine whether you rise above or fall behind: mental toughness. This is the ability to stay focused, disciplined, and unshaken in the face of adversity. It is the mindset that allows you to keep pushing forward when others give up, to maintain clarity when chaos surrounds you, and to persevere even when the odds seem stacked against you. The truth is, success in any area of life is not just about talent, intelligence, or even hard work. It is about resilience. It is about how well you handle failure, how quickly you bounce back from setbacks, and how strong your mindset remains even when nothing is going according to plan. If you want to break boundaries, if you want to achieve goals beyond the limits of ordinary thinking, then you must train yourself to develop an unbreakable mindset. Most people underestimate the power of mental toughness. They assume that success is about having the right opportunities, the right connections, or the right circumstances. But history proves otherwise. Look at the greatest achievers in any field, and you will see people who faced enormous challenges yet refused to break. Nelson Mandela endured 27 years in prison, yet emerged as a global leader. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Oprah Winfrey overcame extreme poverty and rejection before becoming one of the most influential women in the world. The common factor in all these success stories is not luck or privilege, it is mental toughness. These individuals did not quit when things got hard. They did not let failure define them. They did not allow rejection, setbacks, or obstacles to derail their vision. They had the resilience to keep going, the discipline to stay committed, and the grit to push through every hardship. And that is the kind of mindset you must build if you want to reach extraordinary heights in life. Why most people lack mental toughness. If mental toughness is so crucial to success, why do so few people develop it? The answer lies in how most of us are conditioned from an early age. Society has trained us to seek comfort, to avoid discomfort, and to give up at the first sign of difficulty. From childhood, we are rewarded for following the rules, for staying in safe zones, for choosing the easy path rather than the challenging one. We are taught to fear failure, to avoid risk, and to seek approval rather than forge our own path. As a result, most people never develop the resilience needed to handle real-world challenges. When things get tough, they break. When they fail, they quit. When obstacles appear, they retreat. They have been programmed to believe that discomfort is bad, that struggle means they are doing something wrong, and that success should come easily if they are meant to have it. But this mindset is not just false, it is destructive. Success does not come to those who avoid challenges. It comes to those who embrace them. Growth does not happen in comfort zones. It happens when you push yourself beyond what is easy, when you endure difficulties without losing focus, and when you refuse to break no matter what obstacles arise. The good news is that mental toughness is not something you are born with. It is something you build. Just like a muscle, your resilience, grit, and discipline grow stronger every time you push through adversity instead of giving up. The key is to train your mind to become stronger than your circumstances. The core principles of an unbreakable mindset. If you want to develop the mental toughness needed to break boundaries and think beyond the box, you must commit to building an unbreakable mindset. This requires mastering a set of core principles that will strengthen your ability to handle pressure, overcome obstacles, and stay focused, no matter what challenges arise. 1. Control your focus. Direct your energy towards solutions, not problems. One of the biggest differences between mentally strong individuals and those who crumble under pressure is where they focus their energy. Weak-minded people focus on problems, on everything that is going wrong, on why things are unfair or difficult. As a result, they feel powerless, overwhelmed, and stuck. But mentally tough people do the opposite. Instead of wasting time complaining or dwelling on obstacles, they immediately shift their focus to solutions. They ask, "What can I do about this? How can I turn this situation into an advantage? What is the next best step I can take?" This shift in focus changes everything. It prevents them from falling into victim mode and keeps them moving forward no matter what happens. If you want to develop mental toughness, train yourself to become obsessed with solutions, not problems. Every time you catch yourself complaining or feeling defeated, ask yourself, what action can I take right now to improve this situation? The more you train your mind to focus on solutions, the stronger and more resilient you will become. 2. Develop unshakable discipline. Show up even when you don't feel like it. Mental toughness is not about motivation. It is about discipline. Motivation comes and goes. Some days you will feel inspired and other days you won't. But mentally tough people show up and do the work no matter how they feel. They do not wait for motivation. They create habits that keep them moving forward even when they are tired, unmotivated, or discouraged. This is what separates the top 1% from everyone else. The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who only work when they feel like it. They are the ones who stay committed even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when every part of them wants to quit. If you want to build an unbreakable mindset, stop relying on motivation and start developing ruthless discipline. Set a schedule, create routines, and follow through on your commitments, no matter what. The more you train yourself to stay disciplined even when you don't feel like it, the stronger and more unstoppable you will become. 3. Learn to use failure as a weapon. See setbacks as growth opportunities. Most people fear failure. They see it as proof that they are not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. As a result, they avoid risks, play it safe, and give up the moment they face obstacles. But mentally strong people see failure differently. They understand that failure is not a stop sign. It is a stepping stone. Every setback, every mistake, every rejection is an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. They do not let failure break them. Instead, they use it as a weapon. They analyze what went wrong, make adjustments, and come back even stronger. If you want to develop mental toughness, start seeing failure as feedback, not defeat. When you fail, do not ask, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I improve?" The more you train yourself to embrace failure rather than fear it, the more unstoppable you will become. The road to an unbreakable mindset. Mental toughness is the foundation of success in every area of life. It is what separates those who dream from those who do, those who start from those who finish, those who quit from those who conquer. If you want to break boundaries and achieve extraordinary success, you must commit to developing an unbreakable mindset. Train yourself to focus on solutions, not problems. Develop the discipline to take action no matter how you feel. Learn to use failure as a tool for growth rather than a reason to quit. The moment you stop allowing circumstances to control you, the moment you refuse to be broken by setbacks, that is the moment you become truly unstoppable. Your mind is your greatest weapon. Make it unbreakable. Chapter 11. Breaking Free, Living a Life Without Limits. For too long, we have been conditioned to believe in limitations, rules, expectations, societal norms, and internal fears that tell us what is possible and what is not. We grow up absorbing invisible boundaries, learning to think inside the box, and conforming to a world that rewards predictability more than potential. But deep down, in the core of who you are, there has always been a voice whispering that you are meant for more. You have felt it, that quiet but persistent feeling that you are capable of something greater, that your life is not meant to be confined by the expectations of others, that you are supposed to break free. The only question is, will you listen? Every chapter of this book has been designed to push you beyond those invisible walls, to challenge the way you think, to dismantle the fear of failure, to cultivate an unbreakable mindset, and to help you step into the highest version of yourself. But now, as we reach this final chapter, the time for learning is over. The time for action begins, because knowledge without action is useless. Mindset without execution is meaningless. The world does not change for those who only dream. It changes for those who dare to act. The lies that keep you small. Before we go any further, let's address the greatest enemy of human potential: limiting beliefs. Every single day, millions of people live below their potential, not because they are incapable, but because they believe they are incapable. They have been conditioned to believe that success is reserved for the lucky, that extraordinary achievements are only for the gifted, and that their circumstances define what they can and cannot do. These beliefs are not reality. They are illusions. And the moment you recognize them for what they are, you will begin to see how much they have been holding you back. Think about the stories you have been telling yourself. I am not smart enough. I am too old. I don't have the right connections. I am not talented enough. It's too late for me. These thoughts have never been true. They are simply the result of years of conditioning, repeated so many times in your mind that they started to feel real. But here's the truth. Every limitation you believe in is a lie. The only reason they seem real is because you have given them power. And just as you created them, you can destroy them. Every person who has ever achieved greatness once stood where you are right now. They had doubts. They had fears. They faced obstacles. The difference is, they refused to accept their limitations as permanent. They made a decision that no matter how difficult the journey, no matter how many setbacks they faced, they would not stop until they reached their highest potential. And now it is your turn. The decision that changes everything. At some point in life, every person faces a moment of decision. A moment where they either choose to step forward into their highest potential or shrink back into a life of mediocrity. This moment is happening right now. Everything you have learned in this book, everything you have discovered about breaking boundaries, thinking beyond the box, developing resilience, and cultivating adaptability, it all comes down to this single moment. Will you commit to living a life without limits? Because here's what most people do. They read, they learn, they get inspired, and then they go back to their old patterns. They allow distractions to consume them. They fall back into fear. They tell themselves they will take action someday, but someday never comes. Do not let that be you. If you want a life beyond limits, you must make a decision right now that you will never again settle for anything less than your highest potential. You must decide that you will no longer be a prisoner to fear, that you will no longer wait for the perfect time, because there is no such thing, and that you will take massive action toward your goals starting today. The 5 laws of a limitless life. To live a life without boundaries, there are 5 core laws that you must commit to following. These are not suggestions. They are not nice-to-haves. They are non-negotiables for anyone who is serious about breaking free from limitations and stepping into their highest potential. 1. The law of radical ownership. Take full control of your life. The first and most important law of a limitless life is radical ownership. You must take full responsibility for where you are and where you are going. No more blaming circumstances. No more waiting for someone to save you. No more making excuses. From this moment forward, you must accept that everything in your life is within your control. The moment you embrace full ownership of your life, you reclaim your power to change it. 2. The law of unwavering commitment. Stop negotiating with yourself. The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who try. They are the ones who commit. They do not allow themselves to quit when things get hard. They do not give up when obstacles arise. They have decided, deep in their soul, that no matter what it takes, they will see their vision through to the end. If you want to live without limits, stop giving yourself an exit strategy. Burn the boats. Remove the backup plan. Make success your only option. 3. The law of courageous action. Fear means go. Fear will never disappear. No matter how strong you become, no matter how much you grow, there will always be moments of fear. But here's the secret. Fear is not a stop sign. It is a signal to move forward. Every great opportunity, every breakthrough moment, every chance to elevate your life will come wrapped in fear. Your job is to act anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. 4. The law of relentless growth. Never stop evolving. A limitless life is a life of constant evolution. The moment you stop growing, you start declining. You must commit to lifelong learning, continuous self-improvement, and an unshakable hunger to become better every single day. Never allow yourself to become stagnant. Push yourself to new levels, embrace challenges, and always be growing. 5. The law of expanding impact. Lift others as you rise. True success is not just about what you achieve. It is about how many lives you touch. The greatest fulfillment comes not just from reaching your own potential, but from helping others do the same. As you break boundaries, as you achieve success beyond the box, commit to lifting others with you. Inspire, mentor, teach, and create impact beyond yourself. That is the true meaning of a limitless life. The final challenge. Your future begins now. This is the moment where everything changes. The final challenge is not about reading another page. It is not about thinking about what you have learned. It is about action. Right now, decide on one bold action you will take immediately to break free from limitations. It could be launching the project you have been putting off, making the decision you have been avoiding, or stepping into the challenge you have feared. Whatever it is, do it now, not tomorrow, not next week. Now. This is where your journey beyond the box truly begins. The only question left is, will you take the first step? Because the world is waiting for you. The life you were meant to live is waiting for you. The only thing left to do is break free and never look back.